Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Wonder Chineo, and as always, discuss wisdom for management, strategic leadership, and even managing people. Sometimes everyday life. But one of the most striking parts of leadership for me is the ability to understand how to operate in kingly cycles. And in one of those times, I said I was going to talk to us about the guy that Jesus refers to as the shrewd manager. That is in Luke 16. The shrewd manager divides opinion basically because of the way he's introduced. Jesus says, a man was accused of embezzlement and was asked to come and give account because he may no longer become and remain a manager. The guy goes to his home and says, I am too lazy to dig and I'm too proud to beg. He did a SWOT analysis of himself, and I think that that's what most men must do if they operate as managers, understanding your strengths and weaknesses and staffing them, like Dr. Michael Dock says about staffing your weakness. That means putting a human resource to places that you find yourself weak in. So this man goes and meets the people and say, how much do you owe my master? And they say he owes this thing, and he says divide it. How much do you owe my master? He tells him. And when I thought about it, I was thinking, why was he telling them to divide the payment? It meant that the extra on it was probably for himself. So he understood that there are certain times when trade-offs must be made. And scripture tells us that the master saw him and said, this guy is very smart, commended him. A man that was supposed to be relieved of his duties became one that was received accolades. Why? For simply going back and looking at his strengths and weaknesses. One of those strengths is that he was not somebody that work hard labor. He said, I am too lazy to do. But he was a manager. That means the strength that he had was an astuteness of thought rather than hard working. So when people want to become managers, that's what I tell them. Management is about mental work rather than hard work, as it were. Because in those moments, you can start your weakness if you are not very strong. So a manager has to understand that part. Then the second part is that he says, I'm too proud to beg. That means there's a level of self-worth that has to be placed on the individual for him to be referred to as a manager. So one is that you understand that there's a mental expertise, a mental astuteness you need to have to be led. We go for meetings sometimes at my place of work, and I'm listening to leaders trying to get, because sometimes you need to be trying to be democratic. You find a leader relying so much on the influences of people that they are leading, but that cannot be what a shrewd manager does. The shrewd manager has to be one that has an opinion. But of course, John F. Kennedy that said he has to be close enough to motivate, far ahead to lead. That's what a leader is. So this guy goes and says to people, say, move this part, which is the third element. The third element is that you must be willing to deny yourself when it appears that that call needs to be done. So there were monies he expected that were going to accrue to him, so that after the master takes his spot, he gets it. Because of the prevailing situation, he decided that he should take that part away. So he says to him, oh, my master 100, cut it, make it 50. Pay back what you really owe my master. And what that meant was that those people who were owing, if they were going to require 2 years to pay back, but because he had cut, just I didn't get money to pay. Since there's a subsidy here, let me just quickly repay it. That's exactly what shrewd management is. So shrewd management, this is the definition. Shrewdness refers to having or showing sharp powers of judgment and common sense. It often implies a level of astuteness, practicality, and sometimes even a bit of cunning in dealing with human beings, situations, or people. So there are basically about 4 or 5 elements that make for shrewdness. One is sharp judgment, to quickly and accurately assess a situation, understands its complexities, and makes sound decisions. 2, common sense, practical wisdom, and good sense in everyday affairs. Astute perception and discernment. There are times you can allow your leader win just so that you can win a bigger one. John Mason said, "You don't go hunting rabbits when you're in tiger country." I tell myself to keep my eyes on the bigger goals. The bigger goals will allow you to know when to make trade-offs. Practicality, what works in a real world situation, rather than having abstract ideas. So it means that you have to be one who is on the field to know these things. Astuteness, a keen perception of disability, the ability to see things that others might miss. These are things that set the great leaders of the world apart. And finally, cunning. So cunning, even when King Nebuchadnezzar decided people to pick to serve in his court in Daniel chapter 1, one of the requirements was that they had to be cunning in all wisdom. Cunningness. You have to understand if there's anything you're ever going to take, be successful. When